Wow. What a great day of presentations and idea sharing. I hope that everybody's learned something interesting. I know that I have. Maybe even been inspired to build your first cross-platform app or start that project you've been dreaming of. Fine enables a lot of interesting projects and hopefully there's something there for everybody. For the last session today, I wanted to spend just a few minutes showing what we have planned for the road ahead. Version 2.0 is what we are setting our minds on now. It's where there's an opportunity to make our next big improvements. As our community grows, we're seeing lots of great ideas come in. We've tried to incorporate a lot of them in this plan. It's not definitive, and it's also not finalized either. There will be more things coming in. We might find that certain items just aren't possible in the way that you'd hoped or that we had imagined. Question earlier today was, is there a video widget? Well, we haven't actually found a video library that we can include that allows us to keep the really permissive licensing that allows you to use this project for whatever you want. So there's elements like that we have to think a little bit more carefully about. So I'm going to present to you what we hope, and you can follow the project and see how that evolves. So let's just look at a couple of those things in a bit more detail. For anybody who's been following presentations from the community or from the Fyne team or last FyneConf, you'll have heard us talk about data binding. This is something that we've been working on for quite some time, and version 2 is where we expect that to land. So I'll touch more on that later on. Flexible theming. We've had a fair bit of feedback from you that the themes themselves aren't quite easy enough to work with. The widgets adhering to the theme is working okay, we believe, but projects are looking for, I'd prefer this change or larger fonts or different color in this area. So we're going to be working on that so that we can stick to material design with a really great out-the-box feeling, but with more of those app-specific customizations that people have been looking for. Animations is something that I'm really looking forward to getting into the project. The image support that we have doesn't support animated GIFs because we don't have that animation loop. I know that a number of people have worked on areas like that, and it's possible to run animations in your application, but we would like to have it really core so that interactions feel a little bit more responsive, transitions, maybe navigation sliding around like you might expect on a mobile platform. So we'll see how some of that stuff comes in. Also, there's work begun on a GUI builder. Now, the run-through that I did, the live coding session, was supposed to illustrate that it's really easy to pull something together. The API is aiming to be very explicit so that what you type clearly matches what you see. But there's a lot of things to discover, and as the toolkit builds out, we're going to find that perhaps there's just too many APIs for somebody new to the project to really discover. Now, a GUI builder is going to help in that area so that it can present to you all of the options available. When you drop something in, you can see immediately how it's going to work. Now, this is really just to set up your initial application so that you can export the code. It's not designed to be an interactive development runtime debug type of thing. That we're really looking at solid APIs, unit testing as the way to validate your application, but it could be a really great way to get people started or to build out a proof of concept or that complex API for your next application. There's some new widgets that we're going to be trying to include as well. Mostly this is built on top of data binding, and that's why they haven't been there so far. The list, we've shown boxes before that can pack items that you specify into an interface, but list is more about the data bound. If you have 10,000 elements, you don't want to obviously have to load all of those and then scroll through them. It'd be a terrible user experience through speed and possibly other elements, like you'd have to figure out all of that content to do a search or something. So we're using the new data binding to figure out how to more efficiently and intuitively present these complex elements. So list is the obvious one. Tree, which would be a hierarchical list in essence, but probably a separate widget for usability and perhaps implementation reasons. And table, like a data table where you've got different width columns. It's not really easy to do with the existing widgets, and to be able to tap on a header and sort data, that's going to be really important for data-based applications. There's some work on the go. Charles and a few others have said, hey, this one works for me, and it's great to see the innovation in that space. We just need to make sure that it's really slick so that we can handle the types and volumes of data that are going to make the difference in your applications. There's a few things that really we want to fix as well. We've had to hold off on these because they might or probably will be slightly breaking changes, and version 2 really is the first time that we've had, I suppose, given ourselves permission to make any break in the API whatsoever. Every previous release has been backwards compatible. We now have the infrastructure in place through documentation and testing to be able to make explicit changes as long as they have really trivial paths forward for anybody who's using that functionality. So entry scrolling is one of those things. You wouldn't have thought it, but you can the entry expands to fit the text because of the way that min size works. You can put a scroller outside entry so that it doesn't expand your application. But we can't do clever things there like make sure the cursor is always visible. So we're going to bring scrolling into entry and a couple of other widgets that behave similarly so that we can do the more intuitive things like have cursor visible and allow more advanced scroll capability and better APIs for controlling that. Another thing is, as high DPI displays have become more prevalent, we've realized that scaling is a really difficult part of getting this right, but also that addressing at a simulated pixel level or device independent pixel makes for a great output scale. But what if you have a really high density display? You want 3 pixels or a square of 9 pixels in place of every one virtual pixel. Then if you want to move something very, very slightly across the display, it's going to jump those 3 pixels and you're not going to get the full benefit of the high DPI display. Your images and your fonts and all of the parts of the display are going to look great, but the animations aren't going to be smooth. So we're going to add some more precision to the internal coordinate system so that you can get that beautifully smooth transition across the essentially sub-pixel addressing, although that's not technically what it is. And it would be pretty cool to include a few more things as well. This is like massive scope, but the community is just amazing. I've got confidence we can get a huge amount of this stuff in. So we would love to see things like browser-based delivery, running your Fyne apps in a browser. Input validation is another thing that people have been talking about. We don't have a work in progress right now, but it should be possible to include that alongside theme improvements. We couldn't really do it without breaking the theme API, so we've held off until 2.0 to do it right, so that the validation is a graphical feedback. It's not just text being displayed inside your applications. We'd love to do drag and drop properly, not just within an application, but dragging files and icons and data types into your window and back out again. And this helps with certain complexities about launching macOS apps with files being dropped into them at launch time. So it'll be great to get that all tidied up as well. And probably the most lasting request for system tray. There are system tray libraries out there, so for a while we said just go use one. But now that we have menus and submenu support, it seems like a good time to try and figure out how to really encapsulate that into the APIs that we have, so it's fully supported and works just out of the box. So a bit of an overview there about what we're hoping to achieve, or what I would love to be able to deliver as part of this big update. And a few of these items are already underway, so I wanted to share with you where we've got to. The data binding, like I mentioned, is something that we have been working on if you saw FyneConf last year, or if you went to or saw the videos of GopherCon Australia, you would have seen Steve presenting his first version of data binding. And we've been building on that, and we've had a lot of backwards and forwards about how to do that right. It turns out it's really difficult to get the balance between ease of use and the true capability of a data binding API. We need to get that right so that it fits the same simplicity but powerful nature of the other Fyne APIs. We're going to need to adapt widgets so that they can take the complex binding types if that's what you would like, but also to work with the simple types that make it so straightforward to put together a simple application. So thanks to Stuart, who's been jumping in and helping out with that. Between Stuart and Steve, I think we've got really close to a solution here. And if you can excuse the quality on this GIF, there's a little preview about how that might work. So here you can see on the left we have an input where the data is bound to input controls, and on the right we have the same, and in the middle there is an output. These are essentially read-only controls that are changed through APIs in the application, and all of them are staying in sync with very simple APIs behind the scenes where one widget is bound to a data type, and then another widget is, and then another widget is. With internal management of that and only read-only types, it's a very simple thing, straightforward, one-way data binding. But we want to do the two-way data binding you see here, so that if anybody in the user interface changes a value, then it will replicate across the application as well, which adds a little complexity, but really is a very powerful piece of functionality, and really excited to see that land. Next, we're thinking about theming, and it's been really great to have some feed in here from the community. The application that you see here is from Kyosuke. Apologies for the pronunciation there. He worked on this theme generator, and it really, I think, embodies the spirit of what we're trying to do with the next version of the theme. We want to keep that great user interface, the consistent approach, stopping the ability to do terrible things like text clashing with background colors so it can't be read, or loading icons at the wrong resolution so it just looks terrible. And if we can include flexibility within the standard theme system, then that seems like a great balance. So we have this little video of this application which works right now. You can go to that GitHub URL and see it for yourself. We'll just see that play through. Pretty cool functionality there, and the way that this is currently working, you make the changes, it can show you in real time how it's going to look, and then you save that theme file into your code. I think that the final implementation is going to probably be more about a data file or some information, so that it's not saving source code that you then have to import into your application. But we'll see. There's many different ways to take this, and we'll obviously be looking for the approach that makes most sense for the API, for the end of user, the developer of the applications. And so then also really great proof of concept here, technology preview that Cedric has been working really hard on. I just love how great this is. It's tantalizingly close. But unfortunately, the technologies that it's built on are just not quite there yet to be able to deliver the quality that we hold this toolkit accountable to. Anyhow, what you see is a live preview of a Fyne application. In fact, it's Fyne demo. You might recognize it from a couple of versions ago. I think this screenshot was built from. The project here that's embedding it in the browser is a fork, so it's running a little bit behind. However, this is a standard Fyne application. There's no alteration to your source code. It's just compiling to a new target. So here we're compiling to WebAssembler. It's creating a package around it that can be booted in a server-based web environment. So then anybody who hits that URL, apologies, it's been blanked out. I didn't want to overload anybody's development server. But it's rendering the application across the browser and then running on the client. This is something that people have been asking for a long time. I really hope we can get it included in this next big release, but it is going to be dependent on some of the tools that we're working with. And we'll keep you posted regarding this one. It's another project that we have hinted at for some time. And I have a feeling that we're probably close enough now that it could be a reality. So thanks everybody for all of the things that you've contributed to the work in progress there that we've been able to include in this little preview. So the plan and roadmap going forward from here. Whilst I said V2 is the main focus, and that is true, there are a number of us that are working hard on a bug fix release before that. There has been a huge amount of change in the 1.3 release to make some of the rendering improvements, window sizing and scaling adjustments. We had to write a lot of new code in the render pipeline, which is always a scary thing to do because it's the part that's hardest to be tested. And as a result, there are certain bugs that have arisen that we really need to fix. A couple of devices and graphics cards that really don't like the new process quite so well. So thanks everybody for your feedback. I think most of the issues have been already addressed. Maybe there's 2 or 3 remaining. We'll try to get a 1.3.1 out relatively soon so that everybody's back up and running on all the systems that we do list as fully supported. And some of the others that are almost there, I think we can probably get closer with a little point release. Next up would be to agree what we're going to try and work on in the 2.0 release. I've showed you a huge amount. We probably can't actually deliver all of that in one major update. But of course, the more people on the project, the more help that we have in building and testing and scoping these things out, the better. We need to figure out what we're going to try and work on, not because we want to write this plan down in stone, but because we want to know what to focus on. So if somebody comes into the project and says, what can I do? We can point them at stuff that's really going to make the difference for the next release. Aiming for something around September or October, later this year anyway. There is obviously a huge amount of challenging situations in the world right now. I thank everybody for being here today and for all of the contributions across the community that we've had. I can't say how much it means to me and to the team that people are able to be involved when there's so much going on in life and in the world. And so all of the milestones that we have right now, I think really are with the understanding that certain things might get in the way, but this is, I think, what we're kind of aiming towards. More details will come later. And around that, I think it's likely that we'll continue our regular-ish release schedule, which is to see a major release each quarter and a point release roughly each month. It seems like a good rhythm. It's not final, it's not how we will work, but it seemed to be pretty decent at the meantime. It will probably depend on the 2.0 stuff that comes in, how much we need to put in place for certain big changes that it requires. But I think it probably makes sense as a model going forward, and you can certainly follow the project in our Twitter feed for updates. Also, I would love to put more time into the app list website that we have at apps.fyne.io. There are, I think, about 12 applications up there that show some of the activity in the community. It's a chance to showcase open source applications, ones that are cool or useful, and it would be great to get more up there. If you feel your application is missing, please get in touch, point us to your project, and we'll see if we can get that added. Also, kind of a big announcement. It was very, very exciting to see that GitHub has told us we have 10,000 stars. This is just so amazing. I'm really excited. It's been a huge amount of effort and so many people involved. I can't even name everybody. It's a fantastic community working really hard to achieve something that matters. So it's great to have this reflected in our project. So thanks for that. Really excited to see that badge up there. And in, I think, less than 2.5 years, we've gone from an idea built by somebody who didn't really know the language that they were learning to build this out to something that really works, and hopefully is a big part of underpinning exciting projects going forward. And so do let us know what is working for you, what you're trying to build, and how the project could be part of your project and the vision that you have for that. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. It's been really great to share this with the wider community. I hope that you found the event enjoyable and helpful. Thank you again to our wonderful speakers and to the sponsors in the community that made this possible. If you'd like to learn any more, we've got a Q&A session coming right up after this, which we can talk about anything that was discussed during the presentations or something that we missed. But before I go, if you would like to get involved in the project, here's some really useful URLs. We have our new developer documentation website that was mentioned earlier, and also our YouTube channel, which you probably found if you're watching this live. We're going to be putting these videos up in individual sessions later on, but for now the live feed will remain available to play again if you missed anything. If you would like to get involved and contribute to the project, we're just looking for anybody who's excited about what we're doing. You don't need to be excited about doing the code, or you don't even need to know how the code works. If you want to test or design something for it, do some documentation, we'd be really excited to have you on board. You can see on our GitHub project how you might contribute. It's got various hints there, and obviously you'll find all of the code. It's all open source, very permissively licensed, so you can just get involved and try what you would like. Also, thanks again to our existing sponsors. This is a fantastic opportunity to welcome perhaps some new sponsors. It's not possible to run a project like this without sponsorship, and we appreciate every person who's contributed anything from $1 to 1,000, whatever. If it's a monthly contribution or a one-off, we're just hugely grateful. And also, we have stickers. If you would like to provide a sponsorship, I think above the $5 mark, then there's a couple of stickers would be sent in the post. Just don't forget to send us privately your address so we can send you those stickers. And if you are looking to do a Fyne-based application in a business environment, or you would like some more dedicated support that perhaps the community is not the right place, please do head over to Fyne Labs. It's a business that's helping to support the project. It's managing our finances. It's holding the sponsorship that comes in, so we don't have to worry about the corporate governance side of things. We can just continue with the community, the open source, all of that side of things. But they're available if you would like some more kind of business oriented help, or if you just want somebody to go and look over your code. There are various options as well that Fyne Labs is available, but also there's a support page on the Fyne.io website that describes the various ways that you could perhaps get help from the community as well.